The USS Halsey cut through the Pacific Ocean at 20 knots, its gray hull slicing through 12-foot swells. The destroyer was 3 days into a routine patrol, the sea calm enough that most of the crew had relaxed into their shipboard rhythms. On the bridge, sailors monitored radar screens and adjusted course headings while the afternoon sun poured through salt-stained windows. In the small administrative office 2 decks below, a woman sat at a metal desk covered with stacks of paperwork, supply requisitions, personnel transfers, leave requests, the endless bureaucratic machinery that kept a warship functioning. Lieutenant Rebecca Walsh was 31 years old. She had light brown hair pulled back in a tight bun, pale skin that rarely saw sun, and hazel eyes hidden behind wire-rimmed glasses. She was slim, almost thin, her uniform hanging loose on her small frame. Her desk was immaculate, every form perfectly aligned, every signature precise, every file labeled and organized. To the crew of the USS Halsey, she was invisible, just another admin officer, a paper pusher, someone who worked in an office while real sailors ran the ship. 2 junior officers passed by her open door, talking loud enough to be heard. "You see Walsh down there? Still buried in paperwork. She ever even go on deck? I swear she lives in that office. Probably gets seasick as she walks outside." Laughter echoed down the passageway. Rebecca heard every word. She didn't look up, just kept working, her pen moving steadily across the form in front of her. She had heard worse. For 3 years on Halsey, she had been hearing it. The desk sailor, the paper pusher, the woman who couldn't hack it on the real Navy. They thought they knew who she was. An administrative officer who was afraid of getting her hands dirty. Someone who chose a safe job. Someone who didn't belong. They were wrong about everything. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to those who left a trace, so you never miss these powerful stories of courage. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from today? We love seeing how far these stories reach. Rebecca Walsh had joined the Navy 12 years ago with one goal: command at sea. She wanted to be a ship captain. She wanted to stand on a bridge and direct a warship through dangerous waters. She wanted to lead sailors in the most demanding environment the Navy offered. And she had done it. What no one on the USS Halsey knew was that Rebecca Walsh had already commanded a ship. Not just any ship. A guided missile destroyer. The USS McCampbell. She had taken command at age 28. The youngest female officer ever command a destroyer in U.S. Navy history. For 2 years, she had commanded that ship through 3 major crises. A typhoon in the South China Sea, a collision avoidance with a Chinese warship, an engine room fire that nearly sank the vessel. She had handled all of it with precision and calm. Her crew respected her. Her superiors praised her. Her record was flawless. And then she made a decision that ended her command career. During a joint exercise with Allied navies, one of her junior officers made a critical mistake during a live-fire exercise. A mistake that could have killed people. Rebecca, as commanding officer, took full responsibility. She didn't blame the young officer, didn't throw him under the bus. She accepted the consequences herself. The Navy didn't take her command away officially, but they made it clear her path to captain, to higher command, was over. They offered her a choice: take a staff job at the Pentagon or take a lesser position at sea. Rebecca chose the sea, even if it meant riding a desk. So for 3 years, she had worked as the administrative officer on the USS Halsey, filing paperwork, processing forms, and being invisible. But she watched, she listened, she stayed sharp, because deep down, she knew something most people never learned. Crisis doesn't announce itself. It just arrives. And when it does, you're either ready or you're not. The storm warning came at 1400 hours. A tropical depression forming 800 miles to the southwest. Weather forecasters predicted it would turn north, away from Halsey's patrol route. They were wrong. By 1800 hours, the storm had intensified into a typhoon, Category 3, sustained winds of 120 miles per hour, and it was tracking directly toward them. On the bridge, Captain Thomas Grant stood with his officers, studying the weather data. He was 48, a career officer with 25 years of experience. Competent but not exceptional. A man who followed procedure and avoided risk. Recommend we alter course, the navigator said. Head east. Put distance between us and the storm track. Grant nodded. Agreed. Come to heading 090. Increase speed to 25 knots. The Halsey turned. The crew secured loose equipment. Hatches were dogged down. The ship prepared to ride out the storm's periphery. But the Typhoon had other plans. By 2200 hours, the storm had intensified to Category 4, winds topping 150 miles per hour, and had accelerated, moving faster than any forecast predicted. It was going to hit them. Captain, we're not going to outrun it, the operations officer said, his voice tight. Grant stared at the weather display. How long until we're in it? 4 hours. Maybe less. Grant's jaw clenched. All hands, prepare for severe weather. Rig for heavy seas. Throughout the ship, sailors scrambled. Equipment was lashed down. Watertight doors were sealed. The galley shut down. Everyone not on watch was ordered to their bunks. In her office, Rebecca felt the ship's motion change. The swells were getting bigger. The Halsey was starting to roll. She stood, locked her desk, and walked up to the bridge. She had no official reason to be there. Administrative officers didn't stand watch. But something told her she needed to be topside. When she stepped onto the bridge, every head turned. Captain Grant looked surprised. Walsh? What are you doing here? Requesting permission to observe, sir. Grant frowned. This isn't a good time. We're about to get hammered. I know, sir. That's why I'm here. Grant studied her for a moment, then shrugged. Fine. Stay out of the way. Rebecca moved to the back corner of the bridge. She stood quietly watching, listening. The Typhoon hit at 0200 hours. One moment, the seas were rough but manageable. The next, the world turned into chaos. Wind screamed across the ship at 160 miles per hour. Waves 50 feet high crashed over the bow. The Halsey rolled 30 degrees to starboard, then back to port. Equipment that wasn't secured flew across compartments. Sailors grabbed handholds and hung on. On the bridge, the helmsman fought to keep the ship headed into the waves. Captain, I'm losing steering authority. Maintain course. Grant shouted over the wind. Another massive wave hit. The ship rolled 40 degrees. Water poured over the deck. Alarms began to sound. Engineering reports flooding in compartment 3. The operations officer called out. Damage control teams responding. Another officer replied. Rebecca watched Captain Grant. His face was pale. His hands gripped the railing. He was out of his depth. She could see it. The crew could see it. A third wave, bigger than the others, slammed into the ship's side. The Halsey rolled 45 degrees, past the safe margin. Equipment slid. A sailor fell. The lights flickered. Captain, we need to change course, the navigator shouted. If we take another hit like that, we'll capsize. Grant hesitated. What course? I don't know, sir. The bridge went silent, except for the roar of wind and water. Rebecca stepped forward. Captain Grant. He turned, his eyes wild. Not now, Walsh. Sir, with respect, I've been through this before. You're an admin officer. I commanded the McCampbell through a typhoon in the South China Sea. Category 4. Worse than this. Grant stared at her. The ship rolled again. 47 degrees. Someone screamed below decks. You what? I know how to handle this, sir. But I need you to give me the con. Every officer on the bridge turned to look at her. The small woman in glasses. The paper pusher. The one they'd all dismissed. Grant's mouth opened. Closed. Another wave hit. 50 degrees of roll. The ship was going to flip. Do it, he shouted. You have the con. Rebecca moved to the center of the bridge. Her voice cut through the chaos, calm and clear. Left full rudder. Come to heading 270. Left full rudder. Coming to 270. All engines back full. Reduce speed to 5 knots. All engines back full. The operations officer looked confused. Commander, that heading takes us parallel to waves. We'll roll. No, Rebecca said calmly. We'll use the waves to our advantage. Trust me. The ship turned. The bow came around. Instead of heading into the waves, they were now running alongside them. Another massive wave approached from the port side. Brace for impact, someone shouted. Rebecca watched the wave. Timing. Everything depended on timing. Right 10 degrees rudder. Now. Right 10 degrees rudder. Aye. The bow turned slightly. The wave hit. But instead of slamming into the ship's side, it caught the stern quarter at an angle. The Halsey surfed down the face of the wave, accelerating, then settling into the trough. The roll was only 20 degrees. Manageable. Straighten your rudder. Maintain heading 270. Rudder amidships, aye. The next wave came. Rebecca repeated the maneuver. A slight turn at the precise moment. The ship surfed again. 22 degrees of roll. She's riding the waves, the navigator said, his voice filled with awe. For 3 hours, Rebecca commanded the ship through the Typhoon. She never raised her voice, never panicked. Every order precise. Every maneuver timed perfectly. She read the waves like a book, anticipated their size and direction, adjusted the ship's heading and speed to minimize the rolling. It was a dance, the ship and the sea, and Rebecca was leading. By 0500 hours, the worst had passed. The winds dropped to 80 miles per hour. The waves were still large, but no longer life-threatening. The Halsey had survived. Rebecca turned to Captain Grant. Sir, recommend resuming course 090. We're clear of the worst of it. Grant nodded, his face still pale. Do it. Rebecca gave the orders. The ship turned east. Speed increased. The crew began assessing damage. Commander Walsh, Grant said quietly, I need to speak with you. Privately. They stepped into the captain's quarters behind the bridge. Grant closed the door and sat heavily in his chair. You saved this ship, he said. Rebecca shook her head. The crew saved the ship, sir. I just gave the orders. Don't be modest. You commanded McCampbell? Yes, sir. For 2 years. Why didn't you tell anyone? Rebecca removed her glasses and cleaned them with her shirt. Because it didn't matter, sir. I'm an admin officer now. That's my job. It matters, Grant said firmly. You're the most experienced officer on this ship, and I've had you filing paperwork for 3 years. With respect, sir, someone has to file the paperwork. Grant studied her. Why did you lose your command? Rebecca hesitated. Then she told him. The exercise, the mistake, the responsibility she took. Grant listened in silence. When she finished, he shook his head. You protected your junior officer. Yes, sir, at the cost of your career. It was the right thing to do. Grant stood and extended his hand. Commander Walsh, you're the finest officer I've ever served with, and I'm recommending you for immediate transfer to a command position. Rebecca shook his head. Sir, my record. Your record shows you sacrificed your career for a junior officer. That's not a weakness. That's leadership. And tonight, you proved you're still one of the best ship handlers in the Navy. He paused. You're not filing paperwork anymore, Commander. That's an order. Word spread through the ship by morning. The admin officer had saved them. The woman they'd mocked had commanded the ship through a typhoon. The paper pusher was actually a former destroyer captain. The junior officers who had laughed at her couldn't meet her eyes. The sailors who had dismissed her stopped and saluted when she passed. The crew that had ignored her now looked at her with respect and awe. And Rebecca went back to her office and finished filing her paperwork. Because someone still had to do it. 3 months later, Rebecca stood on a pier in San Diego as a new destroyer. The USS Porter was commissioned. She wore her dress uniform. Her shoulder boards displayed the rank of commander. And on the podium, an admiral read the orders placing her in command. Commander Rebecca Walsh, you are hereby appointed commanding officer of the USS Porter, effective immediately. The crew saluted. Rebecca saluted back. She walked up the gangway, stepped aboard her ship, and looked out at the ocean. She was home. Years later, Captain Rebecca Walsh, by then promoted and commanding a cruiser, stood in front of a class of young officers at the Naval War College. Leadership, she said, isn't about the position you hold. It's about what you do when everything is falling apart and people are looking to you for answers. She told them about the Typhoon, about being dismissed as a paper pusher, about stepping forward when no one expected it. You will be underestimated, she said. People will judge you by your job title, your size, your gender, your age. Let them, because when the crisis comes, when the ship is rolling and the crew is scared, none of that will matter. The only thing that will matter is whether you're ready. She paused. Stay ready. Always. Because you never know when you'll be called to lead. The students listened. Inspired. After class, a young female ensign approached. Ma'am, were you scared? On that bridge. Rebecca smiled. Terrified. But you didn't show it. Fear is fine. Panic is not. I was scared. But I'd been through it before. I knew what to do. That's why preparation matters. She looked at the young ensign. Don't let anyone make you feel like you don't belong. Belong by being excellent. Belong by being ready. Belong by showing up when it counts. The ensign nodded, her eyes bright. Rebecca Walsh retired from the Navy as a rear admiral. She had commanded 3 ships. She had trained hundreds of officers. She had proven that leadership wasn't about rank or position. It was about courage, skill, and the willingness to step forward when everyone else stepped back. And on her last day in uniform, as she walked off the deck of her final command, a young sailor stopped her. Admiral Walsh, the sailor said, I just want to say thank you. You showed us that it doesn't matter what job you have. What matters is what you do when it counts. Rebecca smiled. That's all any of us can do. Show up, be ready, and when the storm comes, sail straight through it. She saluted one last time and walked down the gangway, leaving behind a legacy that would inspire generations of sailors to come. The moral of this story is simple. Never judge someone by their job title. The person filing paperwork today might be the one who saves your life tomorrow. Respect everyone. Learn from everyone. Because in a crisis, the only thing that matters is skill, not rank. If this story moved you, please subscribe to Those Who Left a Trace. We bring you true tales of courage, sacrifice, and honor. Stories that remind us that heroes work in every role. And tell us in the comments, who's the person you underestimated who proved you wrong? We would love to hear your story. Until next time, stay strong, stay humble, and never underestimate the quiet ones.